If someone has 5 years of sales experience, he better do a good sales pitch to me. Yeah, so those are 3 things that I also wanted to share with you, because I think most of it is simple, but still the majority of people don't do it. And I think if you follow up to that, you're going to have a good chance in a quite outstanding job interview. And that's actually it. If you have any questions, I recruit, so I'm on LinkedIn, of course. I think some of you have already seen that. Let's say it like this. My mailbox was a little unusual in the last few weeks. But yeah, that's what I'm here for. And if you have any questions so far or now, please feel free to ask. If not, those are my contacts. Thank you. It was actually exactly 45 minutes.
Do you know these Europass CVs? So do you prepare your own CV, or should we write Europass because it's everything the same and you know where to look? So do you prefer you personal? I know there's many different opinions about it, but you as a person, which one do you prefer?
I prefer anything that stands out, so I'm not a big fan of Europass. But I think it's a good one because, I have to add something to that. I think it's a good one because it's a good guideline to know that, for instance, the most current job should be on the top and things like that. But I think firstly it depends on which area you're going to apply for. In the public sector, for instance, some employers might be a little bit more conservative in a creative industry like IT or anything similar to that. But it really is about, again, put yourself in the shoes of an employer. If you read 300 job applications a week, anything that's clear and simple and focusing on the most important details is going to be fine, you know.
When it comes to the question what my weaknesses are, what would be good weaknesses, as I don't want to mention my real weaknesses.
Everyone has weaknesses, and I think it's not about. I think it's not about whether you should mention them or not. It's how about you. I think it's how you. How should I say? How you handle them. So if you, for instance, if you state a few of your weaknesses. If you just state them, it's going to be a whole lot of a different experience than if you say how you realize that you have those weaknesses and how you are dealing with them, for instance.
But I won't say that I'm lazy. What can I say? I'm lazy, but I always find an easy way to.
I'm trying to find a good one how to present being lazy. I have to admit that one is going to be a little bit tough, probably. But yeah, you might rephrase it. You might say that you're not always motivated at the best, but when you are in a specific area, you're going to be good in that one.
So
but it still is a little bit also selling yourself. That's true, yeah.
Can you tell us an example of someone who came and said, who's mentioned their weaknesses in a good way? Anything you remember? You've come across?
Anything that I can't think about anything specific now, but I do remember some really honest approaches to that, and they were always the same actually. They were quite self-reflected because they've known very well about that weakness, and they've always connected it to something funny, to a story, to, you know, I don't expect anyone in here, including myself, not to have a weakness. I really think it's about how you handle it and how you deal with it and how you communicate it. If you can show that you've lived with this weakness forever and you know how to handle it and you're funny about it, I think everyone's going to forgive you.
I have a question. For example, when someone has a lot of certification for jobs, and they put it also in the PDF. Will a recruiter really look at every certification someone has done, or it depends also about the job description?
Yeah, I think you should. That's a good one. I also did a lot of certifications in intercultural knowledge and in politics and many things. But I think you need to know or research if it makes sense to add it, and then connect it to the application and link it to why it is important. Because being, I don't know, the champion in 4th grade of a jazz club is maybe not suitable for every job you're going to apply for. But again, the keep it short and simple thing, if someone lists 10 different documents in an application, if the person is really interesting, I'm going to read through everything, every single one, but I'm not going to spend as much focus as if you're adding 2 things, for instance, that you really thought of very well. So yeah, less is really more, I think.
What do you think a person should have to work in an HR department?
A person who wants to work in an HR department should have.
Yeah, like what kind of qualities?
From character point of view, or?
Yes, character, but also maybe what are like the challenges of HR that you have to face?
I once heard that from a really well-known HR person that in HR, you're always, because you're thinking of the employees first, you're always going to be confronted with the CEOs, you know, at level. Sorry. So you're always gonna. It's ultimately and naturally always going to end up in a confrontation because you're always going to think employees first. In my opinion, from what I've seen, people should have great empathy, you know, understand different kinds of personalities and react to it. How do I manage someone who's introverted? How do I deal with someone who's too extroverted maybe? So empathy is a really big one. I think you really have to have that if you're working in HR. Understand people and how they behave, depending on their character. I think you have to generally be interested in anything that is related to social skills or social competencies, and also I think you should, depending on the how do you say branch
industry.
Field industry. Thanks. Depending on the industry you're working in, you should also know something about that industry specifically, so you know that what the different departments are dealing with. But empathy is the first one that comes up to my mind, that all of them have together. Yeah.
I've seen that a lot of the times experts would mention body language as a key aspect of a job interview. So my question is that you as a recruiter, how likely are you to base your first impression of a job candidate based on body language? And if this is really important, can you give us some do's and don'ts?
Mm-hmm. Do's and don'ts is always hard because very often I think it contradicts to what I've just previously said, that the person has to feel confident, you know. But obviously body language shows a lot about your nervousness, and I think it's natural in a job application that you're gonna be nervous. I think you just have to be able to channel that. So maybe some hints that I would give is talk to others, try to put yourself in a situation that is important to you, and receive some feedback or have yourself filmed. I also got a lot of feedback through that, and try to deal with that. For instance, I saw some people playing with their pens now. That's a big one. When I was presenting, I used to always play with my pen, and that then again, how should I say, puts the attention away from what I say. So if you know about that, you can react to it. Just grab a pen that doesn't work like this. But generally, nervousness. I mean, body language is important. You know, sitting upright, using your gestures and mimics to talk. It is important, but the only way I think to improve that is have yourself filmed. Look what's get some feedback from others, what's unusual or might look negative, and try to focus on that. For instance, I have gotten a lot of feedback from other sales trainers having myself filmed, that I sometimes have a problem with my posture, so I hang around like this. So I try to focus on that. So I really think, again, I don't like to grill people because I think it's natural to be a little bit nervous in a job interview. I rather try to bring them down because I know that maybe in 95% of their job life they're not gonna be that nervous. But yeah, the best way to handle gestures and mimics, which is important and which makes a lot of makes a great part of appearance. I think the best way to do this just to film yourself and get some feedback.
If you don't mind me asking, how did you land your first job?
How I landed it?
Yeah, how did you get it?
Don't mind you at all. I started off in school as a school representative. I was politically interested. I applied in the Federal Chancellery for a really simple position, you know. Again, as I said, it was press related. So I just got in the newspapers every day and tried to look for stuff that was politically relevant and try to summarize it. So that was for the public sector. And for Apple, I actually did the same thing. I just applied at a student's job site, and maybe I even still have the application. I can hand it to you afterwards. And that's also something good that you asked that question. What I did in that application is that I really highlighted how much I wanted that job. You know, I recently talked to someone who worked at marketing at Apple, and she said, you know, what she thought made a lot of difference in the job interview is that she said, at the end, she still kept emphasizing that she said, you know, I really want this job. I'm really keen on working here. You know, so superlatives, as Apple likes to use them in presentations as well, also show that if you're being honest with something, if you really mean it or not. So anything that stands out, anything that's off the usual phrases, I think is going to highlight that you're interested. So also at Apple I started working in sales like everyone else, and from there on things where possibilities opened up. Actually, maybe one more story to that. There was an agency responsible for recruiting before me, and I was their most important salesperson at that time, and they started off asking me to select the ones that should be added to the promotion team. We were students working in the media sector markets and selling the Apple product. And they started, because they had no knowledge whatsoever of who to pick, and actually really, and that links back to the things that I said about focus on the questions that relate to content, to character, and to experience. They said things like, he must be suitable for the job. He worked he studied at the HTL, at the technical school, so he must be suitable for the sales job. He knows about techniques. He can work for Apple. So that's how they did their recruiting, and that's probably why I also got the offer to do the recruiting from my point of view.
Thank you. One more question. Have you ever failed any job application? Did you ever get rejected or anything?
If I ever got rejected?
Yes.
Of course. Sorry, I'm not used to this. I mean, before I worked for Apple, also after tourism school, I applied for a lot of different jobs. I was even thinking of doing something like au pair, you know, and I applied for many different jobs where I wouldn't even get an answer. You know? So I mean, I'm just thinking about examples in a job interview, you know, because that's probably going to be more interesting for you. How I failed in a job interview. It's always embarrassing. But I think I didn't even make it to that part because the federal chancellery thing and also Apple was really fast after graduation. I always did everything besides studying, of course. But it's not that I'm proud of that. I nearly ruined myself. I also have to say that.
Now you said you were also political active. Does it also have like some influence, like for example, like job application when, let's say, the teacher strike? I think.
What exactly do you mean?
I mean, like because political involvement, and there was something at the press. I think it was a long time ago. I forgot. You were striking for the teachers somehow, and you were involved somehow.
Ah, okay. That's what you mean.
Huh.
Yeah, I organized a strike when I was school president. Yeah, that's true.
I remember.
It's cool you remember. It has nothing to do with the job actually. I mean, I can tell you, it really was coincidence. I was politically interested, so I also graduated in politics. I got to choose a topic, and I chose politics when I graduated. And they always send in someone from the ministry, and that person specifically was responsible for the federal chancellery. So I presented about the how do you call it, Nahost conflict,
Near East.
Middle East conflict. And I presented about that, and she said, "You did a really good presentation. Here's my business card." So that's actually how I got the info that they are searching for people, and then I applied like everyone else. Again, as I said, I also very often go out there and look for shops with great customer experience. Look if there's people who are really good and do the same thing.
What do you say about initiative applications? Because
That's a great one.
I had the experience that just recently I applied to 30 jobs, didn't get any response, but initiative.
I think that's a great one. There's a huge advantage and a huge disadvantage about it. The disadvantage is that you will have a lot of companies who don't actively search for that very position that you might suit for. But the huge advantage about it, and that's why I love it, and I've had great experience also with my past. The huge advantage is that it shows the double amount of interest as it does when you just post a job, when a company just posts a job, because it simply says that you are interested in that company and in that position, and that you did your job to search for that position and apply for it. So it says a lot. So even if you have had 30 no's or not even an answer, I wouldn't. If you specifically are interested in those positions, I would never stop trying that.
Yeah, I thought you would just give them a call and ask if there's a free position, then they send my CV. How does that? Is that
Well, I also have to be a little bit honest. At the end of the day, especially in Austria, it's always good to know people who are working in a company or area, so that you can at least have the chance. I mean, I'll try to adapt it a little bit. I never try to highlight, but to how do I say it? I never try to give anyone an advantage just because I or someone else in my friends knows the person. But at least very often it can be a door opener. And if you just use if you use people that you know as a door opener, I think no one should blame you for that. I mean, it was the same way that my first application happened. I got a door opener with a card because someone saw that I did a good job in presenting something, and I think there's nothing bad about it. But if the way that you just tried didn't work, then again.
maybe I did something wrong. Selfie instead of.
No. I mean, these are just experiences. I wouldn't say I'm a total expert, you know. These are just my experiences. But yeah, again, I mean, I think if you initially want to apply for a job that wasn't posted anywhere, maybe calling is, cold calling is always hard. I've also experienced that when we try to start building up a customer base and cold call schools and universities if they want to buy iPads. That never worked. Now they're calling us, happily, but luckily. But yeah, maybe it works better if you try to know people who are working in that industry or company, just to be able to hand your CV. But calling is always difficult because people are always annoyed and bored and have no time.
Yeah, I have a question. For example, if you hire someone who is an obvious talent, but later on you see that he is toxic for the environment in the company, what would you do? Like, would you keep the person or send him on the road?
Luckily, that's none of my business. I just recruit the ones and then they on their own.
So how
But no, I think Dominic has an even greater experience on that one because he's working within a huge team of people at Apple now, and they have had their ups and downs. And without asking you to share personal stuff now, but working in a team where people obviously, where you realize that some people obviously don't go along with what the team does or don't fit to what the team is thinking or trying. It can be really hard, and I think you really have to just confront the elephant in the room in that case and talk about the issue. I don't know if you've had any different experiences in issues within a team, within a big team, or how it's being dealt with. But yeah, I have to be honest. As I've only focused on recruiting and not on how to manage teams of people, it's a hard one for me. Anything else to share?
Well, it depends on the company's ethics. How there are companies, if you don't fit into the team, then they just kick you out. And for example, Apple is a company where everything is very focused on trying to make it fit somehow. Because when you're 30 people, of course, you have 30 different individuals as well.
I think, yeah, I think that's a good one that I may have forgotten. I mean, especially in many American companies, feedback is something that is carried out in a way that we are not that much used to it in Austria. In Austria, mentality-wise, things come around the corner, not too direct. You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But what I learned at Apple, and what I also try to pass on to others in the sales trainings that I do, is that feedback is really everything. And feedback, when saying things, there's a lot of different models to give feedback. Keep, stop, start, for instance, is a really famous one. Where you say, you should keep doing this because, always add a reason, you should keep doing this because, you should stop doing this because, and you should start doing this because. And it seems too obvious maybe, or very simple, but a lot of things that we're doing, we don't even realize that we're doing them. And when various people from different areas who don't know each other say the same thing to you, and you encourage them to do feedback, then there might be some truth in it. So what I experienced at Apple again is that feedback is a really, really important thing. And if you encourage that, and for your example, if you experience that one person might be toxic for the environment, if you go into groups and you start, not confronting one-to-one or from the group to one people, that might be a lot of pressure. But if you start doing feedback and you start asking for everyone's opinion, then things might be easier to change. But that is always hard, and I've not that much experience with it, to be honest.
When it comes to the robot team, is it much more important that the people has the right skill, or is it more important they are working as a team better together? So.
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Okay, if when it comes to recruit people and it is much, and they have to work in a team, is it much more important the hard skills, or is it more important like that they fit in a team and working together? What is much more important?
I think it depends if you really recruit them as a team. It's gonna be the question of whether they fit together or not. But I actually never really recruited people working in teams. You know, I always recruited in a single way, and I always was given the characteristics that a person should have, because obviously it depends from place to place what the characteristics of a person needs to be. So yeah, I never recruited teams of people who had to work together, but yeah, I think I think it depends on if you recruit a team or a single person for a job. If you have to recruit a team who has to work together, you obviously have to look for non-toxic or people being able to work together in a very, very good way. So you have to have a lot of empathy for how people work and for their characteristics and for what might be dangerous if they will work with another person and if they fit together. But again, I never recruited teams, so not too much experience with this. Sorry.
I read an article a few weeks back that actually sales, HR person was interviewed, and he said that a job in sales is the best first job you can actually have after finishing school, university. Would you agree on that, and why?
For me, it was. I don't think it's sales only. People also say that there's a lot of similarities between sales and acting, for instance, because you have to. Because what I learned when I started in sales, what I learned a lot is how to deal with so many different people, especially when working during Christmas. You know, I got hundreds of different characters, and I got to know how to deal with them, how to bring up my point, to make my point, and how to handle every single one of them depending on how the character would be. So I've never thought about what you just said, but if there is truth in that article, I would say it's there because when you're really young and you're put in a position where you have to sell stuff, then you ultimately have to be really, really self-reflective, know your weaknesses and know your strength and know how to cope with them. And for me it helped a lot, because if you put me in this position, you know, I'm 28 now, if you put me in this position 5 years ago, I would have died. So I think there is some truth in this article because if you're selling stuff, you're confronted with so many different people, and I hardly know any other jobs where that is the case. And it helps a lot because dealing with people, you always have to do that in any form of job. And there's also another article that comes to my mind in that connection that argues that a lot of people in high positions actually come from sales because they know a lot about the company and how it works. But that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
When you're recruiting, do you focus more on experience or education? Like,
as I said, I really focus not on any of those. I really focus on character, because anything else than anything other than that you can build on, you can develop. You know? But the character is something that really needs to fit with the company. And maybe at Apple it is more important than in other companies, but I do believe that company ethics, corporate identity, and how a company stands